My biggest fear would be when the first comes and I don't get the rent.
I found that my tenant had dumped concrete down my toilet. Can you believe Fair Housing fined me $5,000 for that?
How do you onboard your tenants? What do you do?
I don't even know if I do it right.
If you're a landlord, don't just rent, rent perfect. The Rent Perfect podcast with property expert and private investigator, David Pickron.
Well, here we are again today at the Rent Perfect podcast. Thank you for joining us today. Scott Aubrey is joining us again. Scott, how are you doing?
Great and happy to be here.
That is awesome. Scott, I want to start off the story today. Probably about 4 years ago, I went up to Payson, Arizona, about an hour and a half north of Phoenix, kind of like a little vacation, weekend pop. And, you know, I just figured I worked hard in my life and I was going to just buy me a little retreat and a little getaway. And so bought a little place up there and couldn't go there for a couple months for some reason. And so I decided, you know what, it's furnished, it's, you know, I'm an investor. Let me put this on a short-term rental, VRBO, and maybe someone can stay in there and just make me a couple months of rent before I can start, you know, going up and enjoying it. Yep. And I'll be darned if that didn't become a hot property, and every weekend it was booked, and then it was booked. And in the first year I had it, I went there a total of 3 times in between bookings. And I had no idea back in the day when I was doing mostly long-term that this need was out there. And so I kind of stumbled across short-term rentals, just trying to make a quick buck for a couple months on a property that ended up being a gold mine. And,
I was hoping you were going to start taking more Fridays off so I could take more Fridays off, but you were here for the whole year. Kind of backfired. I was excited for that property too.
You know, it's next to a nice golf course up there.
Yep.
And, man, we had dreams of, 3-day weekends and golfing. And
you know, I've stayed there a sum total of 0 nights because it's, I think for 4 years, it's been very, very few weekends have we been open. I love that property for you, though.
It was a little diamond in the rough for me, and I didn't buy it with that in mind, but it's worked out so well. I bought the 2 lots next door to it. I got a couple investor friends to buy the next 2 lots and a couple others to buy the next 2 lots, and now we've got 6 lots in a row having construction on it right now with more homes for these short-term rentals. And so I want to talk a little bit today with you as a fellow short-term rental owner. You know, what if we have a long-term rental in our portfolio that would be perfect for a short-term rental, because I make 6 times the amount of money on a short-term rental than I do on a long-term. And they're so much more lucrative, but they're not every single property.
Right.
And so I wanted to talk about possibly taking people's portfolio right now and having them go through their head and saying, hey, would one of my properties meet this criteria where I can make a lot more money off of the property? And so what do you look for when you're looking for a short-term rental versus a long-term rental? Is there anything particular?
I think for number one for me is destination, really. I got a good friend who in Gilbert here tried to short-term rental their 5,000 square foot custom home. They thought, oh, we're going to kill it with this thing. Never once. In the middle of a regular neighborhood in a suburban area.
Nothing special about it. Just big.
Just big. Never once got rented. And they quickly turned it into their full-time residence again because they realized quickly they're like, oh, geez. So for me, it's destination. You know, I've got this property up in Utah near some ski resorts, and to me, that's a draw. I mean, it's a great draw, especially, I mean, we're getting ready to come into this ski season, and Daddy sees lots of dollar bill signs in his eyes, right? Because it's a great property. Right. It's a great property in the summer. And then it's a property that I can utilize in the shoulder seasons. But for me, it's that place. It's like, is it somewhere that's a draw, right? If there's something, is there a corporate need, or is there a hospital nearby that has need for short-term housing? If there's a cancer center, things like that. I mean, I'm looking at these things as far as a destination of like, what is the amount of traffic that's going to drive to that area? That's key for me.
Right. And you made a great point, because I have 3 condos and a little home that are next to MD Anderson Cancer Center. And I went in there and talked to him and said, hey, I will make sure the carpets are all clean, the air ducts are all done between every short term.
Right.
Now, those, when I say short term, aren't the weekend stayers. Those are a month or two getting, some cancer treatments and stuff. And so I go to them, and short term housing here in the Phoenix market, is hard to find. And so I went in and said, listen, I will make sure I got a healthy, no pet, no pet dander left over, no nothing. And so, yeah, I didn't need a golf course. I didn't need a ski resort. But there was a need that I found that keeps these places, people call me all the time, that are going in for certain treatments. And some of these people live here in Phoenix, but they live far away from the hospital, and they want them, once they get their chemo, to get back to a house and back in bed within
minutes, right?
In minutes.
Yeah.
And so, that is one for me. I have one down in Mexico. And I mean, that's a beach property.
Right. And again, destination, right?
Yeah. So I light it up in the summertime, a ton down there, just south of San Diego. But yeah, once again, a destination. But I want to go further than that, because I think most people know that kind of a VRBO type would have to be a vacation type. But we touched on a little bit around a hospital. What else locally could be here that would make your place a destination place? So I'm thinking, are you next to the football stadium? Are you next to a golf course? Right?
Yep.
What I find is when mom is trying to find that place to stay for her family, she doesn't want to stay in a hotel. There's no kitchen.
Right.
Everyone's in a lockout, or they're down the hallway. She doesn't like her kids down the hall. She wants everybody kind of
in the same nest,
in the same thing. But it's interesting too, because a lot of the comments I get are, she's worried about her husband. She wants her husband to have a good time, which is really interesting, and I love it. But my husband has a bad back. How's your bed? My husband needs a jacuzzi. Do you have a jacuzzi, or is it available in the neighborhood? My husband likes to golf. What hiking trails would my husband like to? It's interesting, because I think that's a fantastic wife right there.
Yeah.
But there, usually most of the time I am dealing with the female of the group. She seems to be the coordinator, and I'm just making general assumptions, but it's great, because they always have everybody else in mind. I've got another place that's next to some softball fields that they have softball tournaments at every weekend.
Right.
And that place is just
I was going to mention that. Yeah, that's there's a constant
constantly
turnover
loaded up.
there.
Soccer fields. When I used to travel with my daughter when she was in college, and we'd be traveling in our college golf matches, I would always try to stay, at some place next to a golf course, and that attracted me to do that. And so there are not just vacations, but there are places that if you have a long-term rental, the reality is you need to clean it out, clean it up. It has to be a tip-top shape. No one wants to rent just an average Joe house on their vacation. Maybe a little bit modern, and it just needs to be next to a place that is drawing people on school events, sporting events, stuff like that.
Yep.
So, man, I'm just telling you, I have taken 8 homes in the last 4 years since I bought that place in Payson I was telling you about, and I've turned them into short-term rentals, and they've been fantastic.
Yeah, I know. I've watched you. I've watched you flourish in that market. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I always
So
teach,
happy
hey,
for you.
pick a lane. Like, I was long-term,
Right.
and it's funny how, just with the times, I found something better than my
Well, and I
long-term.
mean, we're aging too, right? We're both middle-aged, so that's a generous statement. But the reality is, do you want to do a 30-year long-term hold on a house anymore at age 51?
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, your investment goals may have changed, and so again,
Right.
that's another thing you look at as far as converting things. Like, is it my short term or am I long term? What is really my goal here? So
And a lot of people will think, hey, short term is just so high maintenance. You have to have someone in there and clean up in between people. And if you find the right cleaner and you pay him or her well, you'll have no problem finding someone to take care of that place. And in a way, on say, for example, on my properties on VRBO, I charge a $200 cleaning fee. I pay my cleaning people $150 of that. I keep $50 for supplies, toilet paper, laundry detergent, all that stuff. So the people are paying for that are renting your place. So not only are they paying you $200 a night, but in addition, they're paying a $200 cleaning fee, right? So we're getting our people who are renting from us to pay for our employee who's turning the property. And in our market, $150 to turn a 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom condo or whatever, it takes them a couple hours. They're pretty happy making that wage. But what I find then is then they're invested in my property. So if I'm even away from my property, say in Payson or you're up in Utah, and we have these people, we can call them up and say, hey, the renter is having a hard time with the remote. Can you just swing by there real quick and help them with the remote? Or, hey, there's this broken. Can you find a vendor up there to take care of this? Because they want that place operating because they want their $150 cleaning fee. Yep. So I have found that my short-term rentals take no more time out of my schedule than my long-term rentals, and I make 6 times the amount of money.
And that's significant. I mean, that's pretty significant.
It's huge. Yeah. So look at your portfolio. I'm telling you, if you have any questions, give us a call. Hit us up in the comment section. You can call and ask for me, talk to me directly. I would love to help you make 6 times more money on a property in the right location with the right flavor to it. One more. I was going to wrap this up, but I got one more thought. I have a friend who has a 5-acre parcel out in rural Utah. He just bought a home from 1850 that's originally built in 1850. And he's putting together this whole experience of living in a home on 5 acres in 1850. You're not going to go there and get a jacuzzi, right?
Yeah, dysentery maybe, but not a jacuzzi. No.
But if you're looking for a throwback experience of what it would be like to live in 1850 in a house in 1850 on 5 acres, he's going to offer that to you. Now, it's not ready yet, and I can't report whether it's success or not, but there are people who rent out airplanes in South America you can stay in, right? I think down in Cancun we were talking about tree houses that people are renting down there. So if you have that experience in addition to, we talked about just turning your everyday portfolio in the city, but if you're really thinking about, hey, I've got this rural property somewhere, maybe there's a story to tell there. There's an experience there that people will sign up and want to stay in them. I know you can rent tents, not igloos, but teepees.
Teepees, yeah.
I mean, there are all kinds of experiences out there. So get creative, make 6 times the amount of money long-term rental. Well, Scott, thanks for joining us today. It's been great talking about long-term and short-term rentals and what works out. We just want success there.
That's right.
So go find your success and continue to rent perfect.